afternoon. Good afternoon. Happy New Year, everybody. What a week in British politics. For the first time in British political history, Nigel Farage and this movement are #1 in the national opinion polls. It's a big moment. It's a big moment. Backstage, they just told me we now have 180,000 Reform Party members. That's 10,000 recruits in 1 week. Enormous. Really, really big. Why is it all happening? Why is this movement taking off? Well, I can tell you, I've asked Reform Party voters. The top reason, we want to control our borders. Very simple. The number of small boat crossings are up 25% on last year. It's costing the taxpayer at least £5.4 billion every year. 5.4 billion. We just took winter fuel payments off British pensioners to save 1.5 billion, and we're spanking 5.5 billion on a crisis that our leaders refuse to fix. It's outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. You know, there was a Conservative economist, Thomas Sowell, who once said, immigration laws are the only laws that are ever talked about in terms of how to help people break them. And that's exactly what this Labour government is doing. It's helping people break our laws. It's not only the fact that if you break our laws by arriving in the country illegally, you get a phone, you get a cash card, you get a hotel room, you get private health care, you get a place in local schools. It's not only that, it's that I wake up this morning and I read the government advisor to the Labour Party is saying, if you arrive in Britain illegally, we should also give you a job. I mean, you might as well put a big sign on the White Cliffs of Dover in neon lights saying if you arrive illegally, we'll let you stay. It's the opposite of what we should be doing. We need to have a deterrent, not an incentive. Crackers. And I'm watching, you know, Labour are actually gaslighting this country, because what they're saying to you is, well, we're returning more people than ever before. They've returned about 9,000 people. But what they're doing behind the scenes is they're approving 2/3 of all asylum applications from people already in the country. So they're letting tens of thousands stay while trying to convince you that they're doing more than anybody else to remove illegal migrants. What we need to do is very simple. To everybody who says, well, Reform doesn't have a plan or nobody can fix this crisis, I say wrong. It's very clear what we need to do. We need to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. That's #1. That's #1. We need to reform or repeal the Human Rights Act. #2. And we need an active deterrent that makes it clear if you come here illegally, you're not staying here. That simple. Not difficult. Not difficult. And you know, the second reason people are voting Reform is to lower the overall level of legal migration in this country, which is also completely out of control. It's absolutely bonkers. Net migration into this country is now nearly 1 million, and contrary to what Boris Johnson and the Tories said, Kemi Badenoch included, and they've lied to this country as well. I'm furious with the Tories. What they told you is they're going to put in place a high-skill, selective immigration policy, that Britain was going to get the best of the best and this was going to drive our economy. That's what they told you after Brexit. That was the plan. That's what Boris told this country. What we got was mass, uncontrolled, low-wage, low-skill, non-European migration, which is making us poorer, not richer. That's the reality. And that's the reality. Everybody in Westminster knows this, by the way. They're all looking at the same figures that I'm looking at. 86% of all migration into the UK now is coming from outside of Europe, from very impoverished nations where, to be frank, people have radically different cultures, radically different values from people in Britain and Europe. That's the reality of it. I put on X this morning the latest figures. You might have read them in the Telegraph. If you look at the 1.1 million people who came into the UK over the last year, do you know what percentage came in on work visas, who came in to work in our economy? 22%. Okay? 22%. So what the establishment have done is they basically lied to you by saying we're going to have the best of the best, and they've given us a form of migration which is making us poorer, which is a net cost for the British taxpayer, and which is dividing our society. I don't know about you, I have had enough of this. Enough of it. It's not what people voted for. It's not what people voted for. And if we've been, the last 2 weeks in this country, we've been reminded again about what's wrong with our policy of multiculturalism, mass migration, and an elite class in London that, let's be frank, doesn't really care about the country. And I'm not talking about the grooming gang scandal. I'm talking about the rape gang scandal, because that's exactly what it is. And, there are millions of people in this country and around the world who have been looking at Britain, asking themselves the same question. After thousands, maybe a million, says Sarah Champion, Labour MP, after countless numbers of young white working class girls were raped, abused and harassed by Pakistani Muslim gangs, millions of people are asking themselves the same question, from Elon Musk to Jordan Peterson to Nigel Farage. How the hell did any civilized society allow this to happen? And it's not just that the children were raped and abused and in some cases murdered. It's that the people in power look the other way. That's what makes it extra outrageous, more horrifying, that the establishment looked the other way. And I don't think I've ever felt as outraged as I felt a couple of days ago when I woke up to listen to Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, casually describe the millions of people in this country and around the world who want answers, who want the truth, who want justice, as amplifying the far right. That's what he said. He said everybody who cares about this issue is far right. Having watched the Labour Party for the last 30 years do everything it can to avoid talking about this issue, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And what the Labour Party is desperate to do is to turn this into a story about Jess Phillips. Is to turn this into a story about Elon Musk. The mainstream media too, by the way. Nobody wants to actually engage with the underlying issue, which would mean holding a national inquiry. I want to know the truth. I want to name and shame. I want to know why there are still members of Parliament in the House of Commons today who rejected local inquiries in towns like Oldham. I want to know why there are police officers who are still serving today, who knew what was going on and didn't do anything. I want to know why there are social workers who still have jobs, who didn't do anything about this issue. And to be frank, I'm sick and tired of listening to mainstream legacy journalists in this country complain about Elon Musk, when the blunt reality is, if you'd been doing your job, if you'd been pursuing truth, if you'd been treating these girls with as much interest and respect as you treat people like George Floyd, we wouldn't need Elon Musk to actually deal with this issue. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. Because we know the names George Floyd and Stephen Lawrence, but we don't know the names Lucy Lowe. We don't know the name Charlene Downs. We don't know the names Victoria Agoglia. They were murdered by Pakistani Muslim rape gangs, and nobody in Westminster seems to give a toss. I don't just want a national inquiry. I want, as the Reform Party said in its manifesto in July, if you're a dual national in this country and you rape our kids, I want you thrown out of our country. It's not difficult. And Keir Starmer and Jess Phillips and Yvette Cooper, they'll tell you, so will legacy media, that everything that I'm saying is part of a fringe minority. But I've seen the polling. YouGov 2 days ago, I put it on X. 76% of people in this country want a national inquiry into the rape gang scandal, and 77% say what I just said. Let's deport these guys out of the country. 77%, more than 3/4. So Keir Starmer, if you're watching, if you're listening, we're not the fringe minority, you're the fringe minority. It's about time a movement starts speaking up for the forgotten sensible majority in this country, and that is this movement. That's the reality. Now, they'll call everybody to the right of Chairman Mao far right. That's what the Labour Party do. That's what they do all day, every day. But if the Labour Party are watching, they're listening, you're the party that's clamping down on free speech. That's what they're doing. The first thing Keir Starmer's government did, removed a law protecting and promoting free speech in universities. Labour didn't want that. They got rid of it. They're now promoting a definition of Islamophobia to shut down on debate about Islam and cultural practices within Muslim communities, which, by the way, includes a specific reference to the rape gangs as an example of Islamophobia. They've been jamming woke ideology down our throats for 15 years, and I'm supposed to believe that the guy who says that 99.9% of women don't have a penis, he's mainstream and I'm a radical. Bananas. And the bit that gets me more than anything is watching Labour MPs complain about foreign interference in British elections and British politics by Elon Musk, from the party that was sending activists to America to campaign for Kamala Harris. Gets better. From the party that was actively plotting with the Democrats in the US, under Morgan McSweeney, Keir Starmer's chief of staff, a company he founded called the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, were going to America to get this, and I quote directly, kill Elon Musk's Twitter. And you wonder why Elon Musk might be a little bit irritated. As I said to Barry Gardner on GB News the other night, or as I like to call him, Beijing Barry, on account of the fact that apparently some money went his way from China, I couldn't possibly comment. I said people are looking at this and all they see is rank hypocrisy. Because look, if you didn't complain about Barack Obama coming over to this country in 2016 and telling everybody to remain in the European Union, and now you're complaining about Elon Musk, you're a hypocrite. And sorry, while I'm here, if you're complaining about foreign billionaires and you're nodding approvingly as Keir Starmer has meetings with Larry Fink and Bill Gates, you're a hypocrite. So look, There is a plan to turn this country around, and there is a plan to get what everybody in this room wants, and I include myself in that. I want my country back. I want my country back. And there is a plan here. But complaining about the state of the country isn't enough. This is actually a movement that has a serious plan from illegal migration, the economy, the state, woke ideology. It was ahead of the curve at the election on all of these issues. It's number one in the polls. So what I'm saying is, don't be pessimistic about the country. Don't leave today thinking everything's terrible. Think you're part of a movement that's number one in the polls. Your job is to leave today and tell everybody in your world, friends, family, relatives, enemies, haters, Facebook friends, to come join the People's Army. Thank you very much.